everybody, and welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, it's me, Alec Coburn. I'm going solo for the show today, so hopefully we have enough to go over. As Matt Morrison not available for the show today. Unfortunately, we'll have him back on next Monday, as I'm sure everybody misses Matt Morrison. I know it's always a struggle when he's not on the show, but you got me. Hopefully, I can make this interesting for the next hour. We've done a few of these where I've had to go the distance. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Tonight's games that I'm talking about on today's show, day 2 of the Casual Sports High School Football Extravaganza. The other 16 games, you can go back to yesterday's show on YSN's YouTube page. Check out the first list. That included the Akron St. V versus Ursuline game, all the way down through McDonald and Western Reserve was yesterday's action. Today, we're talking the rest of them. Mineral Ridge, all the way down to Wyndham and Pymatuning Valley. So a lot of games to get into tonight. A lot of games we got going on the network. It's going to be a fun one. And before we get started, just so everybody here knows, if you haven't heard yet, start spreading the news. YSN got a new scoreboard tab as well. So tonight, while you're watching your games, or if you're just trying to check in when you're at a game and you're trying to say, man, I wonder what's happened over there, go on to ysnlive.com, click on the scoreboard tab, and you will see live updated scores from every game on the network tonight. You can also use this during volleyball, soccer, baseball, basketball, once we get to those sports. Live updated scores here on the network. So make sure you check that out tonight just to get a sense of what's going on there and check out some of the new stuff we got going on. But let's get into some of these games, because I think we got some real interesting ones tonight. So first one up might be the biggest one we're going to talk about on today's show. We covered some pretty big ones yesterday. Obviously, St. V Ursuline is huge, but a little bit more local. Huge conference battle over in the MVAC Scarlet. Two teams that have a potential to take the conference. Jackson Milton, the home team, Mineral Ridge, the away team. Jackson, their one loss came in conference to Lowellville, the number 1 team. Mineral Ridge got upset 2 weeks ago to Springfield in conference game. So at the moment, either one of these teams, they need Lowellville to lose. Mineral Ridge has a chance to be that team to make Lowellville lose. It's a home game in 2 weeks, week 9. But you look at where they sit right now. That loss to Springfield, I think, opens up a lot of question marks for people. They did a great bounce back last week against Western Reserve, 40-13. Really kind of the perfect game they needed to have coming off of a loss in which their offense couldn't get going. Their defense continued to play great, though. And that's the one thing I think you have to continue to look at as you see Mineral Ridge go into the game. The 20 points to Springfield there in week 5 was the most points Mineral Ridge has allowed on the season. That's a really great margin to hit. While they've only pulled one shutout, they kept teams under 10 points twice in those first 2 games, PV Orange. Then they've held every other opponent besides Springfield to either 2 touchdowns or no touchdowns. Newton Falls got 14, Reserve got 13, McDonald 0, Springfield, though, with the big 20 on them. That's the biggest margin anyone's put up on this team this year. So one thing for sure coming into it, no matter what happens on the offensive side for Ridge, their defense is going to be solid. And when you come into a game like this against a really great quarterback, and Alex Schiavi, who's had one bad game on the season, and it just so happened to come when Lowellville was hitting their stride back there in week 5, that was kind of the one big shame that didn't turn out to be the shootout that everybody thought it potentially could be. But if you're Ridge, you have to have your defense solid. For Jackson Milton on the other side, their defense, again, outside of one game, has been spectacular. Maybe not on par completely with Ridge, especially they haven't had that strength of schedule whatsoever. And I know I haven't been there for Ridge either, but the big wins this season over Leetonia, well, they don't have a win. Over LeBray, they don't have a win. And over Sebring, they don't have a win. Those are the 3 shutouts for Jackson Milton against winless teams that we've seen here on the network pretty much get shut out every single week. The games that were a little bit competitive, Newton Falls, who's now 2-4. I'm covering their game tonight against Brookfield. It was a 2-point win. And then Western Reserve, a 1-5 team, is a 1-point win. So you look at this Jackson Milton squad, and their wins against lesser opponents, or against no-win opponents, have been blowouts. but they're games against teams that are okay, not, rebuilding completely. And they're not in the teardown process. They're already in the rebuild process, like, Western Reserve, Newton Falls. They're pushing towards somewhere. It hasn't looked good for Jackson Milton. I really think you come into tonight, and they should be a heavy underdog. I would have to say Mineral Ridge probably favored 12.5 points. If we were doing spreads here, 11.5, 12.5 points for this game. I really do think this will be double digits. I think Ridge should go in heavy favored because, against common opponents, Newton Falls and Western Reserve. Newton Falls, Mineral Ridge wins 33-14. Jackson Milton wins 16-14. Western Reserve, 22-21 for Jackson Milton. Mineral Ridge just last week, 40-13. There is clearly a gap between these two teams, and that's not a knock at Jackson Milton because I do think they are a good team. I saw them a couple weeks ago, and they're ranked 12th right now in Division 6, Region 21. They're behind the likes of United in Brookfield, but Mineral Ridge is the 8th seed here, and they have the same record. So there's 4 spots in between them, and all these teams have the same record. The strength of schedule, common opponents, is factoring into this a little bit. Mineral Ridge looks better. They've played better against the same team. So I think especially as we go into this game, you're going to see it close to start with 2 great quarterbacks in Tristan Valley and Alex Schiavi. But I think as this game moves along, getting into the second quarter, Mineral Ridge is going to make the adjustments. Mineral Ridge is going to turn this thing up on its head. And so long as they don't have the letdown they had against Springfield, they're going to win this game, and they're going to win this by double digits. Jackson Milton, heavy underdog. They're at home, but I've been there. They're not a big school. Mineral Ridge is going to pack the stands, and the likelihood is there are going to be more Rams fans in this stadium than there will be for Jackson Milton. And that's not a knock at Milton. They just don't have enough people. They put their home stands on the away side, away from the press box, and it's the smaller stands. So Mineral Ridge, it's not going to feel like an away game besides the fact that they're not in their home stadium. That's the only part, because their fans are going to be there. Their band is going to be there. It's going to be loud. The environment's going to be there. And really the only difference then becomes turf versus grass. Jackson Milton's got the grass field. Mineral Ridge has the beautiful turf. So you're going to see that one difference. But we've already seen Ridge on grass this season in McDonald, and that was a blowout, 40-0. So we know they can play on grass. It's not going to be a problem. I got the Ridge taking this one probably by 20 points. And again, that's not a knock at Jackson Milton, but I really think that is the separation of talent between the top 8 teams here in Division 6 versus the next 8 teams here in Division 6. I do think there is a decent bit of separation between a lot of them. Maybe with the exception of Brookfield, who I think probably should be in that top 8 team. Their only knock is a loss to Ursuline. They've destroyed everybody else, but they have absolutely no strength of schedule outside of that one game. I think every opponent they've faced since then is a 1-win team. So that's the one knock there, and why they're farther down and why Mineral Ridge has this advantage. But next game, not going to need to get broken down nearly as much. Minerva 0-5 have not looked good this season. And they're going up against a team in Salem who is 4-2. And they're going into this game after losing 57-7 to West Branch, 44-13 to Southeast in the last 2 games. It hasn't looked pretty. It's not going to look pretty tonight. Salem is coming off a loss, but it was a game, we talked about last week in which we thought it could kind of go that way, that they were not the likely candidate to win. That was a really good alliance they went up against last week. They had a chance to pull the upset, but it wasn't meant to be. That alliance team, their one loss is to one of the top teams in the state, in Uniontown Lake, who's ranked number 1 in their respective division and region. So it was a tough game for Salem. They made it look a little better in that fourth quarter because they were down 41-23. Got a touchdown on the board, made it look a little better. Throughout the rest of the season for Salem this week, they're going to come in, they're going to take Minerva, and they are going to put the hurt on them. Most likely we see a shutout in this game, in my personal opinion. I know Minerva has only been shut out once this year, but now they're going up against a really good defense that doesn't have the offensive firepower we've seen out of West Branch or Ravenna Southeast or even the Potters. Salem much more physical, slower tempos. They're not scoring 40-plus points every game like we're seeing out of a lot of our other high-powered offenses in the region, especially West Branch, who was the last team to take on Minerva. This Minerva Lions team isn't going to get as many opportunities. They had, 8 opportunities or more to score in that last week against West Branch. Most teams can score 1 in 8. I don't care who you are. Most teams are scoring 1 in 8 tries. That's pretty typical. And you've seen coming into this, Salem's not going to give you 8 chances to have the football. It's not happening. They're the number 7 team in Division 4 Region 13 behind Canal Fulton. This Northwest team that we've seen earlier this season, East Liverpool, the Beavers, Woodridge, West Branch, Jefferson, and Girard. So this is a statement game for Salem to come into, say, hey, you saw what West Branch did a week ago. Let's shut out the team that got a touchdown on them. I don't think they're going to put up 57, but I would still probably put a spread in this game at 35 in favor of Salem. I definitely think that they are the team to look at. Next one up for us, Niles at 2-4. They've had a competitive schedule and a couple competitive games in there, but their defense when it comes to big games has been the problem. They did great week 1 against Howland, but Howland doesn't have an offense, not a great one at that. Alliance the next week, a team with a good offense put up 55. Then they held an Independence team who, again, not very great this season. Historically, they've been all right. I mean, those Independence Blue Devils, they do just fine for themselves, but their offense has been lackluster, to say the least. They've scored over 20 points 3 times in 6 games, and they've gotten shut out a couple times along the way. So, I mean, it's not a bad victory, but to allow 22 points in that game, regardless of whether or not they came out with a win, it's going to have struggles, especially now you're going up against a team in South Range who has eviscerated their schedule now at this point. 6-0. They dominated Girard a week ago. And, this team might be better than they were a season ago. And that's a scary thought. You look now at the last 2 weeks, 48-0, 56-12 against Poland Girard. No one's touching this team in South Range. Closest anyone got was Struthers, and that was a shocking near upset. No one else has been close. In fact, no one else has been within 2 touchdowns besides Struthers. Canton Central Catholic was 13. Then you look at that, 37-7, 42-14, 48-0, 56-12. South Range has some competitors coming up next. This is a real test game to see what they're going to look like potentially next week against Jefferson, who beat this Niles team 31-14. Likelihood is you're going to see South Range go in the 40s. Niles, they have a decent offense, so I think they're going to get some opportunities to score, but you saw them get held down by a Poland defense the last week, 31-7. In Poland, couldn't do anything against the South Range team. So, looking at who have you beaten, who have they beaten, South Range looks like a heavy favorite to go into this. I like the Raiders. That's who I'm taking in this game. And again, I don't think it's one that we're going to see very close. A game I do think we're going to see very close, Rootstown on the road going up against Warren JFK. I'm really excited for this. And I think the thing I'm excited for most is how does Warren JFK bounce back off the loss to Mogador? They came in with so much momentum into that week. Pretty much everybody across the board was giving JFK the nod last week because they looked really great. And they were kind of at a point of, you can't pick against them until they give you a reason to. Only one person picked against JFK last week, and that was Noah Doty. And he picked Mogador. He was the only one of, 20 people that submitted picks last week to take the opponent of JFK. And I'm looking at this week as well. It's JFK across the board. We're entering into that same thing. Until they really give us that kind of reason not to pick them, you just kind of have to pick them. They are that good, and their strength of schedule goes along to prove it. They're the number 1 team in Division 7 Region 25, and they're a one-loss team. They're ahead of 2 undefeateds in Lowellville and Southern Local. And this is a region very weak after you get outside of really, I'll say the top 7. Matthews is the 5-1 team. Everyone under that is 500 or below. So from 8 to 30. No one is competing. So this is an important win for JFK. You're not going to get any sort of competition in the postseason until you go up against those top 7 teams. And even then, Matthews, Toronto, St. Paul probably don't stand a chance against JFK. The teams that do, Southern, because they're great on both sides of the ball. Danville, again, really great all-around team. And Lowellville, because they have the firepower to overwhelm JFK's defense. Those are the four, really, this is a 4-team race right now in Region 25. And JFK is leading the pack. And a game like this just continues to solidify what they've done this season, because we can't discount great wins against Garfield. That's their only loss of the season. Perkins, only loss of the season. And Champion, one of 3 losses on the season. And then the win on the road in Delta, one of Delta's 2 losses this year. JFK's strength of schedule is miles ahead of everybody else in Division 7. You look at them now, in every week, they are going against teams up divisions. They aren't shying away from really great teams. And they're doing it again this week. Rootstown is the number 5 team in Region 21 for Division 6. They're behind Val Christian, Cuyahoga Heights, who both met the playoffs last year. It was a great matchup. Mogador, the team that just took down JFK, and Kirtland, a perennial powerhouse. Rootstown, another great team, but we're seeing JFK coming in with momentum, trying to get back on the horse. Rootstown, their last loss was Conneaut, 33-14 2 weeks ago. Conneaut's a 5-1 school. We have seen holes in the armor. And against the common opponent and Champion, JFK 44-14. Next week, Rootstown beat Champion 25-22. Most games have been close against good opponents for Rootstown. Mogador Field, Warren of Champion, and the loss to Conneaut. Their strength of schedule does not compete with this JFK squad. These Catholic Eagles, they're coming in, and I think they're looking to make an example out of Rootstown. They got shut down a week ago against Mogador. Now they're going up against a team just right behind them in the standings for the Harbin computer rankings. And I think they're going to come in trying to make that statement, show everybody, hey, that Mogador team's real good, but we're real good too. They got us this time. I guarantee you, if we met again, though, we'd get them the next time around. And JFK is going to prove that with a big win tonight over Rootstown. I'd probably say it's close, but I give a 2-touchdown advantage to the Eagles because that's how much they lost by last week to Mogador. I think no matter what, they're pushing for 2-touchdown win tonight here at home. They're looking to go big. Next one up, not going to be a fun one. Sebring on the road to take on the team right behind JFK in Division 7 in that Region 25. Lowellville, the team that is setting records, smashing records at that. They are looking like one of the best teams to ever grace the Youngstown area, especially down here in Division 7. Nobody came in giving them their 2 cents, man. And they have just gone in, tuned out all the haters. People thought Jackson Milton was going to keep it close. And right now, Vinny Ballone, the number 1 quarterback in the country in touchdowns with 35. Number 2 in the country in quarterback rating at 155. And number 7 nationally in total yards with 2,005. And he's only number 2 in the state behind Danny Stoddard of Medina. I believe they're a Division 1 school. He's up there with quarterbacks that are going D1 across the nation. You're not knocking him. And at the moment, I did the math again this week for Vinny Ballone. He's on pace for the 10th most passing touchdowns in a single season for the OHSAA. If he continues his 5 touchdowns per game, he's going to finish with 58 on the season. He is phenomenal. And he's only going to keep pushing. He is that guy. In Lowellville, I give them the chance against the likes of Warren JFK because of Vinny Balone, because they have an offense with so many weapons all over the field. Doesn't matter. Wide receiver, their running backs, really good running backs, haven't gotten the chance to go anywhere because they don't need to. So you're going to go into the postseason with the freshest running backs in the state. No other team is going to have running backs that are as fresh as Louisville because they haven't had to use them. And if they get into a game where they need to, those kids are ready to go. I talked to the running backs coach in that Jackson Milton game. He's like, my kids right now, they're like rubber bands being stretched out. They are ready. When they get called on, they are going to snap, and they're going to go full force. And if Louisville ever has to unleash their running backs, if the offense struggles, don't worry. They're going to be just fine. Their defense might be the one hole because they're giving teams so many opportunities to score on the defensive side of the ball that they're looking worse than they actually are. No other defense is giving their opponent 9-10 times to score the football or to try to score the football. My one concern with Louisville, if they have to get into a shootout, is their defense going to get that final stop? And that doesn't matter for tonight's game. Louisville's going to win this thing 55-0, most likely. Or maybe not nothing, because they've let up points every game. They haven't held a shutout. 55-14, much like we saw against Columbiana week 1. Probably a similar storyline. Vinny Balone's getting 5+ touchdowns. He hasn't missed that mark, and he's not going to. Sebring, not in the best of spots coming into this, man. It's been rough for him this season. They've had a struggling offense, just 44 points in 6 games, and their defense has held an opponent under 40 points one time. And that was the start of the season with Lincoln West, who was 3-3. Since then, they allowed 64 to Matthews, 40 to St. John, 47 to Waterloo, 41 to McDonald, 41 to Jackson Milton. Louisville beat Jackson Milton by more points than Jackson Milton scored in that football game. This could get ugly if Louisville wanted to in this game. They could make this bad. Vinny Balone could probably break every single game's passing record if they really wanted to in this game. They won't. They'll call off the dogs. They won't put up 62 like they did on Jackson Milton. They had a chance for history, and they hit it in that game because they realized the pace they were setting, and they weren't going to take that opportunity away from Vinny Balone to hit that mark. They're not going to do that here against Sebring. They could if they wanted to, but I don't think they will because it comes down to sportsmanship at that point, and every single guy I talk to on that team, very humble. They don't want to go out there and embarrass their opponent. That's not what they're doing. They're going out there to win a football game. Once they have it in the bag, dogs are going to get called off this week. Next game, speaking of Bulldogs, East Palestine. My faith has been lost in East Palestine, and I don't think it's going to be a good one this week. I was hoping after the win against Latonia, maybe they could pull one against Wellsville or Lisbon, especially if they get close against Campbell. They might have a shot against Columbiana, but more than likely it's a 1-9 season for EP. Columbiana is not a bad school. They've just had a hard schedule. But United, Southern, Valley Christian are 3 of the 4 final games for East Palestine. They've had their chances to win with Campbell, Latonia, and Lisbon, and they fell short. United's coming in this week. Back-to-back statement wins after the Valley Christian upset. They are tuning up for Week 10 against Southern. And I know everyone goes, oh, well, they don't want to get caught looking ahead. They're not going to get caught. It's East Palestine, Wellsville, and Lisbon. The top 3 of the EOAC is probably 20 times better than the rest of the conference. And that's not a knock at the other teams. It really isn't. But that is how good United, Southern, and Valley Christian are. I mean, you look at these teams when they go into the playoff standings, and United is a number 11 seed. And then you look, Valley Christian is a 4, and Southern is 4 as well. We're talking about a battle of 4 seeds, and then a 10-seeded right now United. No one else is touching that. I think Wellsville is the 4th team in this division. Let me see where they sit. They're 16th. That's a decent ways back, and it's not that they're a bad football team, but they've had to go up against Valley Christian and Southern. Then they're going to have to take United. The top 3 in this division have been outstanding this season. And United was the first one to fall. I really think going through this season, you're going to see a turnaround. United, that Week 10 game, they're coming for you, Southern. I know Southern right now, they're preparing for next week's game against Valley Christian. I can't wait to be there for the Call in the Wigwam. Game of the week, likelihood, EOAC conference decider. Unless Southern wins and then United knocks off Southern, then it's a 3-way split for first. That'd be something this year. That seems like the way things should go for the EOAC because these 3 teams have been great. But United, control what you can control. Take care of business this week. I'd probably go out and say 40-point favorite tonight against East Palestine because that is what they've done this year. Their offense has scored over 40 points in all but 2 games. Valley Christian, because Valley Christian is that team, and they were awesome that game. That was the best game they've played in years. It might be the best game played in the history of that school. In the history of that school's football program, I don't know if Valley Christian has played a better 4 quarters against any other team than they did against United there in Week 4. And then the other game started out the season against Waterloo 28-17. We've come to learn pretty good defense over there with Waterloo. United's going big tonight. Their defense plays great. I don't think EP gets a touchdown tonight. I hate to see them fall back-to-back games, getting shut out, but I think United, they're on a tear. They're tuning up, like I'm saying. They are going for Salineville in Week 10. No one's getting in their way. Next game, keeping it in the EOAC. It's another game that likely you're going to be turning this off by halftime. Valley Christian against Columbiana. VC a week ago against the beat-up Leetonia with, I think, 17 guys dressed on the night, won 46-9 at the half. They called it. It was over. They had 8-minute quarters in a running clock, and Valley Christian had to put their JV team in. Oh, and by the way, they actually started that around middle part of the second quarter. Yeah, Valley Christian is that good. They're really good. And that EOAC matchup next week, oh yeah, that's the one to watch. Valley Christian on the road in Southern. Southern got them bad last year. They got them real bad. Valley's coming. It's going to be something. That is the only game left Valley Christian might lose. Perfect season on the line. Next week, Southern. I can't wait. I'm going to be there. But this week against Columbiana, the Clippers don't stand a chance. We saw what they've done the last 2 weeks against Southern United. They weren't there. And, I heard earlier on Running Point just before this, hey, Columbiana, they're still trying to get their coach win 200. What a win this would be. They're back at home. Last time they played at home, they lost 38-14. Oh, what about the game before that? Well, they still lost 14-13 against McDonald. Yeah, that McDonald loss isn't going to translate here. McDonald's 2-4. Valley Christian's 6-0. Talking to Andy Hake before the game, most of these weeks, pretty much getting the impression, especially last week, I'm hitting 40, then I'm pulling everyone. That's exactly what they did. Last 2 weeks, got 40, called everyone off. 14-13 was the score between McDonald and Columbiana. 33-0 was the score between Valley Christian and McDonald. This game's a white. 40-point favorite right now is Valley Christian. Columbiana is going to be lucky to score because that defense in Valley, they're playing like animals. No one's getting on them. Southern, that's going to be a matchup. I'm interested to see on that one. So excited for it. But this week, both teams easy dubs. Next one up, Warren G. Harding, who has played a brutal schedule so far. Medina in week 1, who has the number 1 quarterback in the nation in passing yards, who's 5-1, by the way. Then they've taken on Oakdale, who's a fine team this year. Hudson, who's undefeated. Massillon, Washington, who's 1 loss as the top team in the state. Ursuline, who obviously just beat Cheney. And then St. Vincent St. Mary, who's going up against Ursuline this week. Brutal schedule. But they haven't looked bad. Against undefeated Hudson, 21-7. Medina, 33-10. Against the top quarterback in yards, who's top 10 in the state with touchdowns. and they still held them low. Massillon, Washington, the only time this season the game's gotten away from them. But back at home, they've played really great. They've had 4 home games, and every game has been within 2 touchdowns. On the road is where they let things get away. 23-point loss to Medina, near 30-point loss to Massillon, Washington. Now they go on the road into Spartan country, who's heating up. 3 straight wins for Boardman. Got a little bit of Boardman maroon on today. Boardman's taking this one. A lot of people are torn on which way to go here. And I see a whole lot of Harding. A lot of Boardman there, but I'm seeing a lot of Harding to win this game. Not happening. Not happening. Boardman coming off a win against Benedictine last week in Cleveland. I know that that's an 0-16, but that is a good program. And after the 2 weeks prior to that, with Howland and East, this Boardman team, they're looking to explode. And talk about needing wins, you have Dover, Fitch, Canfield. Boardman, you're not winning another game outside of this week. Take this one and hope it's enough to get you to the playoffs. They're a 16 seed. A win here would go a long way because behind them is, at number 17, is Cleveland Road School of Environmental Studies, which I didn't know had a football team. They're 2-4. Top 16 teams look like they're going to be there. But get win 5, guarantee yourself a 500 season. It has to happen because you don't know exactly what you're going to get. I don't like Boardman's chances in the postseason. I ain't going to lie. Look at the top of Division II, Region 5. Hoban, Riverside, Hudson, Fitch, Nordonia, St. V. Yeah. Sorry, Boardman. I like you. You're not getting through that once you get to the postseason if you're going to be a 16 seed. Shoot, they need to get inside the top 8 to give themselves a chance because that top 8 right now in Division II, Region 5, likelihood is one of those teams might win the state championship because it's really good. Division II's got some really, really good teams this season. Boardman, probably not going to win it, but at least he can get to the playoffs. Get this win this week. I think they can do it. I think it's going to be close. I don't think either team's offense is going to get going anywhere. It's going to be defensive. It's going to be ugly. It's going to look like the Cardinal Mooney game in week 1. Ain't nobody going nowhere. No one scoring nothing. I give Boardman the game. Shoot, I'll give you a score. 14-13 will be my final. Boardman wins it because Harding, they're going to take a 13-7 lead, a 13-0 lead, but they missed that extra point. It's going to come back to bite them. Give me Boardman. Next one up here, West Branch on the road to Marlington. Another game. It ain't going to be close. Wrap this one up. Send it in a box. It's West Branch. Drew DeShields is awesome. Awesome. He has played outstanding this year. 8th in the state in passing yards. And his top guy, Joey Jackson, 18th in the state in receiving yards. Drew DeShields in total yards, 7th in the state. He has been outstanding. And inside of Division 4, number 2 in passing yards, number 2 total yards, and Joey Jackson's number 4 in receiving yards. By the way, he's just a sophomore. Joey Jackson, they got a weapon out there. He's going to keep him going for a while. West Branch, they're going to have a real good night. It's going to be a quick night. Since Canfield week 1, they haven't let off the gas. Ain't nobody been close. And this ain't the week it's going to start. Arlington is the very last seed for Region 9 in Division 3. The very last. They are 25th. They are in a 3-way tie for 25th with Benedictine, Collinwood, and Marlington. It ain't going to be Marlington that pulls an upset over West Branch. I can assure you of that. West Branch, probably by 50. Next game up, this is going to be a barn burner. West Geog at 1-5, Orange 0-6. Orange has had no offense the last 2 weeks. They've been shut out. They've been shut out 3 of the last 4 weeks. They have scored more than a touchdown just once. And you look at West Geauga, well, shoot, they ain't done much better. They put up 20 against Parma, but lost to Streetsboro. They got a touchdown. They've been shut out 2 of the last 3 weeks, and the one game they really put up any points and lost was the same Edgewood team that allowed Orange to score 21. Maybe the one thing you look at, you compare that, especially that Edgewood game, Geauga's defense a little better, offense is about as even as can be. This might end 24-21, probably not that score, 26-20. I don't think it's going to be a pretty looking score. It's going to be awkward. Field goal kicking hasn't been West Geauga or Orange's strong suit. So taking that into a factor, I don't know who to pick. I really don't. This is not looking great for either team. I think I'm going to go West Geauga based solely on the fact that Orange hasn't scored the last 2 weeks. And West Geauga really hasn't either. But at least they got shut out by Kirtland. Orange got shut out by Chagrin Falls and Geneva. Two really good teams, but they ain't Kirtland. Chagrin Falls is 3-3, and Geneva 4-2. Kirtland undefeated. Those Hornets are 6-0. I'll take Geauga by an eyelash tonight. I don't like picking the Wolverines. I wish I could take the Lions instead, but I can't tonight. Next one, Cheney, Painesville, Harvey. I think this should be a pretty good game between the two. Cheney 5-1 of the season. I want to see how they bounce back after the Ursuline game because they had every chance to win that game. They had a couple of opportunities go away, fumble here, and it compounded on itself. Every tiny mistake in games like that build up on one another, and it compounds into the outcome. Everyone wants to talk, how does it finish? I prefer how did you get there? Because you can dissect every single football game that comes down to a one-score game. And people love to go and blame refs at that point. You don't like letting the refs decide what happens in a game? Don't get there in the first place. Every team throughout a game has an opportunity to pull away. The best teams can. Cheney couldn't. Neither did Ursuline. They stayed close. Every second of that game was close. Nail biter all the way through. But you can go back through and watch that tape. Opportunities were there for both teams to pull away. Cheney couldn't pull away the last 2 weeks. In fact, we've seen that a couple times. They couldn't pull away from Mooney. Mooney's not that great of a program right now. Not at the level they used to be, that's for sure. They're 3-3. They got really good defense. But now you've seen it. Cheney against good defense, they struggle. They can't get that big play explosive ability. And now you're going against Painesville Harvey, whose only losses, undefeated Kirtland to start the year in a 6-point loss to 5-1 Jefferson. They beat Wickliffe, Crestwood, Cardinal, Middlefield, and Grand Valley. Sure, strength of schedule hasn't been there. Definitely not on the level of Cheney. But they're going to bring in a strong defense. A defense that's allowing 12.5 points a game. 13 points a game. How is Cheney's offense going to react to another good defense? Because it's going to be the third week they've gone against tough defense and tough line play. The rest of the season is going to be a glide for them. This is the game that decides, are you going to be 9-1 or are you going to be 8-2? And you know how that impacts their position? We'll see. Cheney's still ranked ahead of Ursuline despite the loss last week. Still ahead of them. Their strength of schedule is a real factor in where they're sitting. But a loss, likely going to drop them outside of a home spot, potentially. Because Ursuline, University School, Alliance, and Aurora are the teams behind Cheney with the same record. No undefeateds are left in Division III, Region 9. Canfield's top team, Chardon's 2, CVCA's 3. Cheney's 4, Ursuline's 5. A loss here drops you down potentially outside of the top 8. And going into the postseason with a tough line like this, you want one of those top spots. You want to be able to go up against, still a good team in Talmadge or New Philadelphia, Hawken, Kenston. You want to be able to go up against one of those schools. You don't want to be outside of that top 8 going against University School, Ursuline again, CVCA, Alliance. You don't want that in this first week. The difference this region right now between an 8-2 and 9-1 season could mean your entire playoff lives, because you could probably make it 2-3 rounds deep if you're one of those top 8 seeds. If you're not, you're going to be lucky to go 2. Coming to this, I want to see them respond. Everybody has seen the talent. Everybody knows Cheney is really good this season. It has been a complete turnaround. But now you lost. Here's your adversity. What are you going to do with it? Because we saw last season, they got hit with adversity right in the jaw in week 1. They struggled last season, despite great talent all around. Great talent. Division 1 FBS level talent. And they still got some of it. And we've seen them all play really high levels this season. And they're probably going to send a few more from this crew into the FBS level. Division 1 FBS schools. Power 5 even. But what's the mentality going to be? You beat Canfield, you lost to Ursuline. You beat the team that was better than you. But then you had a letdown against Ursuline. They should have won that game. When you look at standings, look at rankings, look at statistics, they should have won that game. That's why statistics tend to go out the window when you're hitting somebody. Everyone's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. Cheney just got punched in the mouth. How do you get back up? I got Cheney because I really think they're a good football program. But how do you respond to getting punched in the mouth? They took one to the jaw. Now we get to see what that jaw is made of. Is it glass? Is it rubber? Is it diamond? They took one right in the mouth, right in the kisser. Get back up, keep fighting. Next one up, we transition to PA football. Mohawk hosting Lincoln. Not on the network tonight, but scores are going to be available on the new scoreboard tab on the network. Make sure you check that out here after the show. Actually, after Power Hour. When you get ready to go into your games tonight, check out the scoreboard show. Don't miss a second of what we're talking about. Mohawk, though, got their first win last week. They were close in week 2 against Riverside, couldn't quite pull it. Now you're going against a team in Lincoln, played a lot more games than you. They played 5. You're going into your 4th. You know, it's just one game. It ain't that much football. It is that much football. When you've had as much problems as you have, this actually will be game 6. For Mohawk, this is game 4. Pardon me. A little slip up of the tongue there. Lincoln's lost their last 2 against Freedom Area and Western Beaver. Mohawk, they won the last one out. Carry the momentum. I want to see it. Carry it from week to week. What do you got this week? They came into the season with so much hype behind them. It's fallen off. I want to see them get back to it. I got Mohawk. Next one up, I honestly don't know how to feel about it. Howland taking on East in Rain Stadium. Pardon me, in Howland. My apologies. Nope, I was right the first time. in Rainfield. East has a shot. They do. Might be their first shot of the season. I mean, they haven't played an easy schedule, that's for certain. Mooney, Boardman, Ellett, St. Joseph, Shaw, and Hubbard. In reality, they haven't looked that bad. A couple games, yeah, for sure, they didn't look good. St. Joseph and Akron Ellett, that's ugly. Those 2 games, they allowed, what's this, 125 points, 123. They scored 28. They got shut out twice on the season. Sure, they've had real offensive deficiencies because that's the one game they had anything. It's because their opponent scored 74 points. Ellen had 11 chances to scored it 11 times in that game. You're not going to get 11 chances to get 28 points here against Howland. Likelihood is East can get 2 touchdowns on the board. This is the lightest game they've played on the season. The easiest game. And it's going to go back to brutal. Canfield, Ursuline, Cheney. I want to know who designed Youngstown East's schedule because they didn't want them to win a football game. Not one. Hubbard, Shaw, St. Joseph, Ellett, Boardman, Mooney, Canfield, Ursuline, Cheney. They weren't supposed to win a game this season. Not with that schedule. I don't care who you are. Put Cheney on that schedule. Put Canfield on that schedule. They're not coming out undefeated. I can guarantee that. That's a really hard schedule. And for a program like this that's not working with much, and they're trying to pick themselves up and push them in a direction, a season like this, sure, experience. None of this experience is good experience. And I'm going to say any experience is good experience. Not this season. This season does nothing for you. Might do stuff for the other team to test out some new plays. So I guess they have that going for them. They've seen a lot of plays. They've seen a lot of offenses. They've seen just about every single way they've been beat. I guess what do you learn from that? We're going to find out. Howland, they've played a pretty hard schedule too. But some games they could have won. They won last week against Warrensville Heights, and I think they're going to take the momentum off that against the team in Warrensville Heights. Same record as East with pretty much the same deficiencies, even a better offense with Warrensville Heights. And they couldn't score. Howland doesn't have much of an offense, but they have a defense. And in a game like this, their defense is going to come out. I like Howland to win the game, but I don't think it's going to be by very much. I don't think any team hits 20 in this game. I would be genuinely surprised if anyone does. Likelihood of a shutout? I don't know about that. I know Howland got the shutout last week, but back-to-back weeks, I don't think it's going to happen. I think East gets something on the board. We've seen them kind of average about that 8-point mark. That's where you keep seeing pop up on their schedule. They get 8. If you get 8 in this game, you might have some momentum. If you can get one of those big plays to go your way, maybe they get 2 touchdowns in this game. I think it's possible. We saw they know how to score against Ellen. It's not like they got shut out 74-0. They put up 4 touchdowns of their own in that game. We'll see. I'm interested. Back over to the EOAC, Southern, tune-up game, 100%. They got Latonia this week. They just beat down Wellsville 64-6. And then the last 3 weeks, one thing's for certain about Southern. They do not care about your feelings. They're going out there and they want to win by 40. They don't want to score 40. They want to win by 40. That might be the one difference between how Southern's playing and Valley Christian's playing. BC, they're going to hit 40 and call it off. Southern, they ain't going to call it off until they have you begging for mercy. And that's not a good thing for Latonia. Finishing off this run of United, Valley Christian, and now Southern, Latonia's not in a great spot. Man, that's not where you want to be. They're trying to rebuild, and credit to them for trying to put this ship back upright. But Southern is coming in with 5 Iowa-class battleships. And Latonia is a sailboat. They don't stand a chance. And I hope, for the sake of sportsmanship, Southern doesn't make this bet. Because no one down on that Latonia sideline deserves it. Great guys down there talking, to the coach. They understand what they're going up against, but they're trying. And, credit for trying to put this program back in the right direction. I said it on the broadcast the other week. Maybe it's not Coach Protopapa that ends up with this team at the very end, but he is trying to put them in the proper alignment. In a game like this, you just have to survive. Walk out with the flag still. Maybe the ship goes down, but take the flag with you. I got Southern in this game. I can probably guarantee by 50 points. This is a tune-up. Going on the road, they're tuning up for Valley Christian. Then they got another tune-up game against EP. Then they got United in week 10. It's going to be ugly this week. This game ain't going to be pretty to watch. Next one up, Springfield Waterloo. And truly, honestly, I have no idea how to feel about Springfield. Last 3 weeks, they've looked good. They got 2 wins, Mineral Ridge and McDonald. They played the best game against Lowellville that anybody's had against Lowellville, and that gives a lot of credit their way. Now they go up against a Waterloo team that kind of confuses you a little bit because they had a good week against Lowellville too. Still lost by 3 touchdowns, but had a shot for a while. You're not going to hold that offense down all day. It just ain't going to happen. They made it look better in the second half. It was 36-12 at halftime. Lowellville, they called out the dogs. Gave Waterloo a shot to come back. They made it look nice. Wins this season, Strasburg-Franklin. It was a home game. Strasburg's 0-6. They beat 0-6 Sebring, and they beat 1-win Western Reserve by 3 points. I think with the way Springfield is starting to play, big upset against Ridge. Big upset to get their first win. Then they take down McDonald. Good fashion, 2 touchdowns. For the first time this season, their offense believes in what they're doing. You have a talented guy in Rourke. I mean, you've seen him in other sports. He doesn't lack confidence or ability. And I think this is the first time this season you're starting to see this team believe in themselves. And a lot of credit goes to Sean Guerrero for keeping the belief in this program long enough for the players to buy in. Because you could have looked at this season for him and honestly, he could have walked out the door. He could have gone to just about any school in the Valley he wanted to. If he had decided, hey, I lost all my guys. I lost 8 of my 9 all-conference players. I could walk. He didn't. He stuck around, and he's trying to get this team back. He wants this team to become on the level that you see out of Madison, Washington. They are on that kind of trajectory. They want to be that top dog year to year. And who's to say they can't? Because they have talent, they have coaching, and they have a belief over there in Tigertown. Right now they rank 11th, Division 7, Region 25. They've got a spot. And this is a division, like I said, it's wide open. From 8 to 16, that second half of this bracket is wide open. A good finish to the season for Springfield. Western Reserve, Jackson, Milton, Niles, and Waterloo. If they can run this, they're in. Might not be a great matchup, but if they can take on a Hillsdale, Matthews, Toronto, week 1 of the postseason, you might have to give Springfield the edge if they can run the table and finish this out. 4 straight losses, and then if you could turn this to go 6 straight wins, Springfield's going to be one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs if that's the case. But it all starts with a win here in Waterloo. Here's the first test. You pull the upset Ridge wasn't expecting you. You won a game people would have given you the favorite as against McDonald beginning of the year. Now you have a team in Waterloo. People are like, yeah, this is a good Waterloo team. They're tough. They're going to challenge Springfield. Here's your first real challenge. Yeah, I know Ridge is a challenge. Yeah, 100% that's a challenge. But Ridge wasn't expecting you. Nobody was expecting you. Now you have expectations. Now Springfield, again, is going to get looked at as a playoff team. You have expectations. Now you have to manage them. What can you do? I'll take the Tigers. I didn't believe in them beginning of the season. I went, they lost too much. I'm waiting for them to give me a reason to pick them. I'm waiting for you to show me something. They got Ridge. They got Donald. Now I got them over the Lou. Final game to go into. 5 minutes left on the show. Windham Bombers at 2-3, taking on Pymatuning Valley, the Lakers at 2-4. And for whatever reason here, this is a game nobody is giving any love to Windham on picks. I have 3 picks right now on YSN that are taking Windham. Everybody else, probably another 20 people, are taking Pymatuning Valley in this game. And maybe only because PV's won the last 2 weeks and Windham's coming off a loss. 22-point loss to Ravenna Southeast, a top team in their division. PV's beat St. John Ashtabula, who obviously we've seen a lot of here on the network this season. They're 2-4. They beat Fairport Harbor's Harding last week, 2-4 team. Windham, they got wins over the same St. John team. They won 50-12. Pretty comparable to a 40-0 shutout. Obviously, you like the shutout better, but it's a matter of 2 points in the margin of victory. Really, honestly, good losses for Windham. I'm not seeing why this has become such a one-sided pick. Windham, just on the outside. They are the 17 seed right now, behind Wellsville, Tuscarawas Central Catholic, and Fairport Harding, the team that we just saw lose to PV. Now, on the other side, Pymatuning Valley, they're 14 seed in their respective region, Region 21. They're 2-4. They got a good spot, potentially, to take something here. It's a wide open bottom half from, 13 on down in that conference. I think it's pretty open. I don't see this as a one-sided game. A lot of people like PV. And I think they like it because they're coming in with momentum. And that is a big factor in high school football. What do you have going for you right now? And Wyndham, they came off a loss. But they came off a loss against Southeast Ravenna, who's 4-2. And if you look at Southeast, they're the 9 seed. They're 5 spots ahead of PV in the same region. It's only a 22-point game. I think one thing you can assure yourself in this game, I think it's going to be close. The Bombers have every chance to take this game. And you can't get much more balanced. 156 points for, 156 against. Pymatuning Valley, 104 points for, 175 against. Well, it sounds like Wyndham's got better stats in both categories. I'm taking the Bombers tonight. I don't care what anybody else here on the network has to say. I like Wyndham in this one. But that's about all I got for you here on the Casual Sports Podcast. But taking in my highlight of the week. This one kind of hard. I'm going to have to say, give YSN some promotion here. Our new scoreboard page. I love it. Going in to be able to see all our new scores. Wonderful. Sports moment. I'd honestly have to say, I called my first soccer game this week. It was rough. Wasn't my greatest call. That's for certain. But just one more thing I can put on the resume now. And to continue at it with the opportunities YSN has given me so far, to continue to build that resume, expand my realm of knowledge to soccer, I'm accepting the challenge. I hope I can get on a few more before the season comes to a close. Just have to get some close to me. Everyone's going out like 30, 40 minutes away. I got to get some games closer here into the Liberty region. But that's my highlight of the week. Meathead of the week. I think just about everybody is going to be able to put this out here. So this week's Meathead of the week. Miami Dolphins training staff. Who in their right mind would have put Tua Tagovailoa out in that game? Dude was stumbling off the field. Stumbling in the prior week on Sunday. So not even a week ago. On Sunday, this dude was stumbling, looking like he could barely see where he was walking to. And then you put him out here against the Bengals, who have a great pass rush, who got back there time and time again. And it took one hit to put that man into an awful-looking state. Meathead of the week by far. And it's not even an award I want to give. That was sickening to watch last night. I hope the NFLPA does something about this because that was disgusting. Awful representation of the NFL in that game. And on that note, that ends us off. We sent it to Power Hour Super Show. Coming up next on your Sports Network, I'm Alec Byrne, a Casual Sports Podcast. Day 2 of our high school football extravaganza comes to a close. Check out both days on YSN's YouTube page to get the full 2-hour breakdown of football here in the Valley. Power Hour coming up next. Football games all night long. You can catch them all on the Audible Call tonight.